Hey everyone, it's Bobby from Dig Coding here, and this is the 26th video in the building and launching a real Django website series. So if this is your first time to the channel, please subscribe, please like, and please share the content. It's massively helpful. And if you'd like to support the channel, then there's a link to our Patreon page in the description below. Any pledges are massively welcomed. So if you've been following along, you'll know now that the project is basically there. We've just got 2 more videos of coding to do, finishing touches, and then we'll get it all on the server and we'll update everything so the world can see our new project that looks great, right? So all we've got to do now is to make our contact us form work, which seems like an easy task, and it is, but we want something a little bit fancy pants. So in this video, we are going to configure the backend. So we're going to be looking at the Django files, the py file, the Python files, right? And we're going to add mixin, we're going to add it's a model form, or a model form. Going to change our base template. So we're going to basically configure the back end of our website so that we can handle an AJAX submitted form from the front end, right? So that's the fancy pants stuff we're going to have. We're going to have a form on the front end that you've already seen. It's going to be submitted using AJAX. It's going to do all the funky stuff in the background, in the back end, process the request, and then respond to the front end, and nothing's going to change on the front for the user. It's going to be a click with a little message saying thank you for contacting us, but nothing will be reloaded, which is great. It doesn't seem like much, but that's quite fancy, right? So especially as we're going to be using AJAX with Django model forms and tying it on, stringing it all together. So let's jump into it. Look at my screen. So I've got my CMD open here. We go work on did demo and Python manage.py run server. And what I'll do, I'll open up, and you can see here we've got a little icon, which is great, and it's starting to really look good, right? So API is working, everything's looking gorgeous. I love it. We haven't done the bottom here, but we're going to do that in the finishing up video. And contact us. So currently we've got contact us form. Doesn't work. It won't work because we haven't configured anything. If I put the stuff in here now and put click send, it's just not going to work. So let's jump into the code and configure everything. I'll be going at quite a fast pace, so because we've got to go through quite a bit. And I've got my screen the other side. I've already tested this in another environment and made sure that it does work, because there's nothing worse. If you see my videos, there's nothing worse than getting tongue-tied and typing wrong, and you know, it's just horrendous. So I've tested it, the code does work. Let's jump into it. So the first thing we're going to do is going to go into this settings.py file, because not only we're going to have AJAX making the submitting the form, we're going to have Django model forms doing the stuff in the background, in the back end. We're going to be using Google reCAPTURE. I've got a link to a video that I've done that shows you how to implement reCAPTURE into a Django project. So won't do a deep dive, look at that video, it gives you everything that you need. But in here, in the settings.py file, we're going to need a few more variables. So what we've got is, I'm going to do a lot of copy and pasting just to save time. I do not want an hour-long video. I went through this on another playlist that I'm not too good at long videos. I look like I start getting a bit angry. It's not, it's just that's the sort of person I am. I kind of lose some wind in the sails, and so I like a nice short punchy video. Anyway, right, we've added these variables. So we've got if debug, so if we're in development mode, then we're looking for, we create 2 variables, which are the same if in the else statement. Difference is we're looking at the INI file. So I've got the 2 API keys that I've got from Google. Again, the link is in that video that was up a moment ago. Shows you how to get that API key. You need a public key and a private key. Get it in your INI file. Get these variables in your settings file and save. Next step is adding more bits to our main.models.py. Okay, so this is currently we've only got media. So we've only set up one model that sits on our main database, not a user database, and that is for all of the media that we have on YouTube. Now we want another model. This is going to be for contact. Okay, so it's still models.model, updated and timestamp. I tend to have them in most of my models, just so that it's so we've got a timestamp when the contact is added, and then updated. It's not necessarily needed in this model, but we've got it there anyway. Name, that's the person's name. Telephone number, that is the telephone number of the person who's making the contact request. Email and message. We've then got one here which is a reCAPTURE or capture score, float field. So what we're going to build out, so basically reCAPTURE, they handle the security of the request itself, and it scores how secure it is. So if the score isn't level with what's acceptable, then it won't allow the request to be made. But if it does, it will still score it, and it'll add a float field to the model itself. This allows you to look at contact requests in your database and work out which ones are, more prevalent, which ones you're going to look at and deal with in what order. And then we've got is active. So we can keep them or remove them later, but is active I generally keep in as a Boolean field and true. So we'll save that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new PY file. So files, new, and we'll be saving this in our main directory as forms.py. I do a lot of lists in some of my other playlists, so I'm using Django forms, model forms in quite a lot of those apps that are on my GitHub page. The link to my GitHub is in the description below. So I've already got forms in there. I was playing around with this earlier. So I've already got forms in here. It's not doing anything, so I just left the file in there. So I'm not going to waste too much of your time. I'm going to copy it across. You can always pause the video. So we are importing model form from Django forms. We're importing from Django importing forms, and then from .models we're importing contact. There we go, we've got a link to the docs here, and then we're creating a model form called contact form. And then what I've done is I've created a name variable here, so it's forms is a char field. So what I'm doing, I'm creating the field for the HTML, so that when we render this in the HTML template, it renders identical to the one that's in the template currently. And the way I've done that is I've added this class to the widget, so it's a text input, and in the attributes dictionary, I've added class form control, because in the contact HTML template, if I open that quickly, you can see that the input class here, this is just for name, all of them have class equals form control. If I didn't have that in the attributes widget, so in the widget attributes dictionary, then it wouldn't render right in the template. So it's important you do that in the forms.py file. So I've done one for name, char field text, telephone, char field text, and I've gone through each of them. This is an email field. That's important. We must have that as an email field. And then we've got the message, which is a text, char field, max length 1000. I believe I've mirrored that with the model. So we've got name 100, max length 1000 there. Email 254, that's standard, 100, max length 15. We've got that in here, telephone 15, yeah. So I've mirrored the form with the model, I was just double checking there. Then we've got the reCAPTURE token, so we've got a token field, and this is a hidden field. So when it's rendered on a template, you won't see it. And we'll be playing around with that when we're in the JS file, which we'll be doing in next video. Then we've got class meta, the model is contact, which we've imported, and the fields are name, telephone, email, and message. Okay, so we've created a model form. We now need to import that into our views.py and play with the contact view, because we're currently using template view, I believe, and we need to use form view. So I'll make that change now. Okay, so if we open views.py, we now need to import more than just the media. We want contact. We also need here, we've got template and list view. We now need, I think is it edit? Yeah, generic edit. And this is form view. And we need to import, so I'm not going to copy and paste everything across, from .forms import, this is contact form, and then we've got another file that we haven't created yet, and that will be from .mixins import, and we've got there two. I've got a reCAPTURE validation class, and I've also built one called AJAX form mixin. We haven't built those yet, but I've got them in my other screen. So we're importing something that isn't there, so our server won't like that, our local server. So we've got home, about, contact us. So this contact us here is currently template view. We need to add in here the AJAX form view, form mixin, and then we need form view. And then we want template, right, so we now need to add form class equals, and this is contact form. And then this is needed. I tried it without earlier, but you do need this. Although we won't be using it, you need a success URL variable. We'll just keep that as a /. And then what we need in the context, because we've added the get context data method, we can now add to the context. So context, and you just add it like you would a normal dictionary. And we need to add in here the reCAPTURE site key. In fact, what I'll do, I'll copy that across. Just don't want to get the spelling wrong. We need to add a reCAPTURE site key to the context in the template so that we can access it in the JavaScript that we're going to write in the next video. So we're looking at settings, reCAPTURE public key, which we added to the settings a moment ago, but we haven't got the settings file here. So it's from Django.conf import settings. So we're now access there. Is there anything else I've forgotten? No, that is the views done. So we're going to create an AJAX form mixin so that we can process the success and the error of an AJAX call. And we're doing this, it's a little bit more complicated using AJAX with a generic view, I find. In the past, I've always used function-based views, and although you're using a lot more code, it seems a little bit more structured when you're writing that code, and you can read it and understand it a little bit more easier. But I've got used to using these generic views now, so I've also got used to using a mixin for the AJAX call itself. So let's go ahead and write that. So first off, we need a new file. We need to save this file as, and it will be called mixins.py, and it'll be in your main directory. There we have it, and we want to import, because with pip installed requests, we need requests because we'll be using that for the reCAPTURE class. And then we want from Django.conf import settings. You'll get used to writing that in almost every template. From Django.http import JSON response. Okay, right, I'm not going to write these functions because I've got a typo there. Great, so I've got two functions, I'll copy them one at a time. Again, if you look at reCAPTURE video, this function is straight out of that app, so there's no point in me duplicating that work. So what I'm doing, I'm making using requests, doing a post request to google.com reCAPTURE. I'm sending in the private key, and I'm sending in the token from the form that we haven't created yet. And that's how it does that's how it works out, how secure the call is. Okay, and it responds with JSON. So we've got results.json, and we handle that in the view. There we go. And then we've got I don't know if I'm handling the response. I might have to do that outside of this video. The next one is AJAX form mixin. So let's put that here, paste. And so this is the AJAX form mixin, and it takes in object. Okay, and we've got two methods. We've got form invalid with self and form. So it takes the form in as an argument. And then it does a super call on the AJAX form mixin itself. And then if self request is AJAX, then it returns a JSON response with the errors, state is 400. And in the valid method, it does the same, but it rather than sending an error message, it's got form.save, so it saves the form, to the object, in this case is contact, sorry, to the model. And then it adds a dictionary called data with a message. You can call it anything really, with message, successfully submitted form data, and return JSON response data, return response. So that is all it's doing. It's nothing fancy. It actually looks more complicated than what it is. But that is the mixin, and we need that to be added as one. It's getting called into the contact view. So if you remember, if I go back there, if I save that, in the contact view, we're calling AJAX form mixin here. So it's in there as an argument. Then you've got form view. So that is the views, that's the mixin. We've added the the model form. We've done a settings.py. Now what do we need to do? Now what we need to do is we need to go into the base HTML. So remember, we've got this block here, content. Okay, we use blocks quite a lot. So we use extends template tag to extend base template. So index extends base, and then you do all of the code for index in this template. And the base template stands alone with the header and the footer and the JavaScript and whatnot. So we use blocks so that we know where to inject certain HTML into that template. So it is all done in order. So that way you can have CSS at the top where the CSS should go in the header, JavaScript at the bottom in the right place. Okay, so that's what we use blocks for. So we've got a block wrapper. So I added that because the template that I downloaded, it required different wrappers for different templates. So I've got a block there. But what we also need is an extends header. I can't remember where I put it. So let's have a look in my notes, just to make sure I've got it in the right place. So I had it just under my CSS. So we have block extends, or extend header end block. Okay, and we also need another one at the bottom here called extend footer. End block. Okay, and then underneath that block we then need to, we haven't written it yet, but we will add a main JavaScript. So this won't work, we won't do a test on any of this code at the end of this video because I can't test it just yet, but what we will do is we will bring in a file called main.js. So in the next video, I'll be writing that JS file. So it'll all be about JavaScript in the next video, which will be the first one in this playlist, right? So that is the base HTML. We've now got extend footer, and we've got extend header. Yeah, just making sure that's right, that's right. And now what we need to do, we need to go into contact HTML. Right, so that's the contact. If we open contact on this screen as well, so you can see here I've got block wrapper at the top, so I'm using this div, which is unique to this page, and it might change in a different one. So we can bring that down a couple of bits, and we can now add, do you know what, I'm going to, because the video is going on a little bit now, so I'm going to copy and paste across. So extend header. So to use reCAPTURE in this template, we need to load this script at the top of the page, and it takes in there is it takes in our API key. So it says render equals, and it has the API key there. That's the API key that we're passing through in the context from the view, if you remember. Okay, so it's important that we add that to the header. So having that in that block there is the equivalent of having it in the header of the base. But the important thing is we're not going to use reCAPTURE on every single URL or template. So it's good to have the option to only load code on the page where it's needed. It really speeds things up on your website. So that's contact, that's there. We then need to add in the footer. I keep calling it a footer, it's not the footer. It's just the bottom of the body. But I always call it the footer. So block extend footer. So we've got another script, text JavaScript, and we're creating a variable, so VAR variable, reCAPTURE site key, so that's what's being used at the top in the script. And we're using, we're accessing the reCAPTURE site key in the context, and we're using the safe filter, okay? and we've got the speech marks here, which makes it a string. So that's what we're doing. We're accessing the site key in the template in that fashion. Okay, so now all we now need to do is we need to adjust the form that's currently on the template, the contact template, so that it's Django'd, right? So we need to add a CSRF token to it using a template tag. We need to change the inputs here so that we're using form.name in the accessing the form that's being passed through to the template rather than having this, and change the ID, so it's an ID that we're going to use in the back end. The action needs to be correct, the post. So yeah, that's all we need to do. So let's go ahead and do it. So we'll call it contact form. I don't like to have a little dash there. So we'll have contact form is the ID. Action in this case is going to be, it's going to be / contact. So we're going to be calling our contact URL, right? So that's that. We then have, rather than have it lower, we'll have it capitals, post. Then we want to change these inputs to dot screen name. Change this one to form. Oh, I don't want that there. Form dot. Doesn't really matter what order we do this in. We'll have form dot email, and then it was message, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, so we'll go form dot message, and then we've got the button submit. Type is submit. That's important. Make sure you have a submit button there. We won't need this because we're not displaying the messages like that. Send message, or call that submit. We can call that whatever we want, it doesn't really matter. So form name, right, so what we need to do, we need to make sure, actually there's one other thing that we need, I forgot. If you remember, we need the reCAPTURE token. So token, and we need one of these here. That'll be a hidden field. Talking of hidden fields, we also need to have the template tag CSRF token, and you normally add that directly underneath the form tag. So CSRF token. And what that does, it adds a hidden element or a hidden input into your form, which is a CSRF token. So CSRF stands for cross-site request forgery. I think I said that right. So it's just a way of really adding another layer of security to form requests to stop toe rags from messing things up. That is it, I believe. So what we've done in this video, just to sort of round it off, it's been quite a long one again. So what we've done is we've configured the back end of our project. So we're ready now to have an AJAX call made from the front end so that the back end can then process a contact request and save it in our database so that we can so we know who's contacted us from our front end, and we can do something with that information. We can email it to someone in the team, for instance, but essentially what it means is when somebody contacts us, we have a way of storing that data now, and we're going to do that using AJAX and model forms. So that is the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. The next video will be writing the JavaScript, so we're writing the front end so that we can actually make that AJAX call. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like and share the video. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Thank you, bye-bye.